So, level 1. You just signed up for your first chess.com early chess account and learned how the pieces move. You know the knight moves in the L shape and the bishop moves diagonally and pawns walk forward one square at a time. But here's the thing, at 100 elo, basically playing a completely different game than everyone else. Your opponent hangs their queen on move 3, you hang your queen on move 4. It's like watching two people trying to give each other money and both of them keep refusing. See, this is only level 1 of the 7 levels of chess mastery. These levels are the difference between players who lose to the scholar's mate and players who dominate, win world championships, and find insane sacrifices. But here at level 1, the main goal isn't even about strategy yet. You're just trying to remember that bishops can't move to different colored squares, and that your king is kind of important. You shouldn't just leave him in the middle of the board when someone's rook is staring at him. Almost all games at this level are decided by who blunders the most, and who blunders last. There's no plan, no strategy, just, oh, that square looks nice, let me put my knight there. Your opponent takes it with a pawn, and you're like, wait, pawns can capture? The jump from here to even 600 elo is huge, and I'll tell you why in a second. But first you need to understand something that most beginners never figure out. Chess isn't about moving pieces randomly until someone wins. There's this moment that happens to every chess player, and you'll know exactly when you're ready for level 2. It's when you stop hanging pieces every single move. Level 2, beginner, 600 to 1000. This is where most people actually start playing what looks like chess. You stopped hanging your queen every game. Congratulations, you're better than your past self. At this level, you're starting to see threats one move ahead. Like, oh, if I move my bishop there, he can take it with his knight. Basic stuff, but it's actually a big deal. You probably know a few opening moves now, maybe e4, d4, maybe you even know the Italian game, or the Caro-Kann. But here's what separates 600 rated players to 1000 rated players. And this is crucial. At 600, you see one move ahead. Like, oh, if I move my bishop there, he can take it with his knight. At 1000, you're starting to see 2 or more moves ahead. For example, if I take his knight and he takes my bishop, then I can fork his king and rook. That's the difference between 600 and 1000. One extra move of calculation. And this is why it matters. Seeing 2 moves ahead is the difference between hanging pieces constantly and actually winning material on purpose and finding tactics. At 600, you're acting to threats. At 1000, you're creating threats and seeing what happens after. You're also learning basic checkmate patterns now. For example, back rank mate. Simple things, but they're deadly if your opponent doesn't see it coming. Most games at this level are still decided by blunders. Someone leaves a piece hanging, someone misses a checkmate in one, but the blunders are getting less and less obvious. Instead of just putting your queen where it can be taken, you're now missing a skewer that hangs your knight. Progress, right? Here's something interesting though, and this connects to what you'll see at higher levels. Players at 1000 elo are starting to understand pawn structure. Not deeply, but they know that doubled pawns are bad and passed pawns are good. They just don't know why yet. These games are longer now too. At 100 elo, games end in like 10 moves. At 1000, you're probably actually going to make it to an endgame, and that's when you realize you have no idea how to checkmate with just a rook and a king. This is also the level where people start getting really frustrated, because you're good enough to know when you messed up, but not good enough to stop messing up. You'll see the blunder the second after you make the move. That feeling of clicking your mouse and immediately thinking, oh no. That's 1000 elo experience. By the way, if you're between 0 and 1400 elo and want to stop hanging your pieces and actually see tactics before your opponent does, I built a 28-day training program. It's in the description and the first 50 people get a discount. Anyways, back to the levels. Level 3 is intermediate, 1200 to 1600. Welcome to the level where chess actually starts making sense. At 1200, you're no longer a beginner. You're generally decent at chess. You understand basic tactics now. Forks, pins, skewers, maybe even zugzwang, or the Greek gift sacrifice. But here's where it gets interesting. You don't just know these tactics exist, you actively look for them each move. You're scanning the board thinking, can I fork something here? Your opponents are doing the same thing, so games become tactical battles. Whoever spots the tactic first usually wins. The opening knowledge gets more serious here too. You're not just playing e4, following principles and hoping for the best. You actually know 8 to 10 moves of theory in your main openings. For example, maybe you play the Sicilian defense is black, or the Queen's Gambit is white, and you're starting to understand why these moves are played. It's not just memorization anymore. You're starting to understand the ideas behind the moves. But here's something that happens at 1400, 1600 that most people don't talk about. You start hitting walls where tactics alone aren't enough. You can calculate 3 to 4 moves ahead pretty reliably now, but your opponents can too. So games become about who understands the position better, not just who calculates better. This is where you start learning about stuff like weak squares and piece activity. Like you'll have a knight on the side of the board doing nothing. You realize you need to bring it back to the center where it can actually attack things. The endgames are getting more complex too. Learning about things like king and pawn endgames, different variations, where every single move matters. One wrong pawn push loses the game. Most players at this level have a moment where they realize something critical. Chess isn't about finding the best move every time. It's about avoiding the worst move. That mindset shift is what separates 1600 from 1800. Level 4. Advanced. 1800 to 2000. This is where things get serious. At 1800, you're probably better than 90% of chess players, not because you're a genius, but because you've put in real work. The biggest difference at this level is consistency. Beginners and intermediates have good games and bad games. At 1800, your floor is way higher. Even your bad games are pretty solid. If you blunder, it's probably a complex tactical shot you didn't see, not just basic one-move blunders. The opening prep is intense here too. You probably have 15 to 20 moves memorized in your main line. And you're not just memorizing, you're understanding the key ideas. Like in the Najdorf Sicilian, you know black plays a6, white plays bishop e3, all that stuff. The middle game is where this level really shines. You understand pawn breaks, you know about piece coordination, how your pieces work together, and you're thinking about the end game, even in the opening and middle games. For example, you might try to trade certain pieces, or avoid trading certain pieces to try to enter a winning endgame. Here's something wild that happens at 1900 and 2000. You start beating lower rated players not by outplaying them. You just neutralize everything they try to do. No tactics, no tricks, just solid moves that don't give them any chances, and they slowly run out of ideas. The calculation depth is deeper too. You're seeing 6 to 7 moves ahead in forcing variations. Not in every position, but when there's a concrete sequence, you can calculate it. Most games are decided by who understands the position better, not who sees the tactic first. The tactics still matter. It's about knowing when to trade pieces, when to open the position, when to create weaknesses. This level is also where you start developing a style. Some 1900 players are attack monsters who go for the king every game. Others are positional grinders who just slowly squeeze until you can't move. Both work, you just have to figure out what fits you. Level 5, titled player, 2200 to 2400. Okay, now we're talking about people with actual titles. Candidate master, FIDE master, maybe even international master. These aren't just strong club players anymore. These are serious competitors. The opening knowledge at this level is borderline absurd. 25 plus moves of theory and main lines. They know the move orders, the move order tricks, the sidelines, the rare variations. If you try to surprise a 2200 player with some random opening, good luck. They've probably seen it, analyzed it, and know exactly how to punish it. But here's what's really different at this level, and this is important. These players don't just play chess. They study chess deeply. They're watching games, analyzing their losses, working with engines. Chess is a serious hobby, maybe even more than that for some. The middle game understanding is on another level. They're thinking in terms of long-term plans, not just move-by-move tactics. Like they'll spend 10 moves maneuvering their knight to one perfect square, because they know that once it gets there, the position is winning. The endgame knowledge is insane too. They know all the theoretical endgames, rook and pawn, queen versus rook, opposite color bishops, all the endgames. They might even know how to mate with just a knight and bishop. These games are also way more intense. A 2300 versus 2300 game might last 6 hours over the board. Every move matters, every pawn push has a purpose. There's no random moves, hoping your opponent doesn't see something. Everything is calculated, precise, almost scientific. But here's the thing about this level that leads into something that comes next, even at 2400. You're still not quite at the world elite level. There's this gap between international master and grandmaster that's really hard to cross. And it's not about tactics or calculation, or even knowledge. It's about something deeper. Level 6, grandmaster, 2500 plus. This is it. The title everyone knows, the highest title in chess, and the one that marks you as world class. At 2500, you're in the top 0.1% of all chess players. Not the top 1%, top 0.1%. The gap between 2200 and 2500 is absolutely massive. It's like the difference between a good college basketball player and the NBA. Sure, they're both really good, but one is playing an entirely different game. So what makes grandmasters different? First, the opening preparation is professional level. They're working with engines, databases, they know 30 plus moves deep in critical lines. And they're not just memorizing, they're improving theory, finding new moves. But here's what's really different, and what most people miss. Grandmasters don't play hope chess. At lower levels, even at 2200, there's still some element of hoping your opponent doesn't see something. At 2500, that's gone. Every move has a purpose. Every plan has a backup plan. If their main idea doesn't work, they've already calculated 3 alternatives. The positional understanding is almost perfect. They can look at a position and immediately know which pieces need to be traded, which pawns need to be pushed, where the king should go, not because they're calculating it all, but because they understand chess at such a deep level. It's like they're speaking a different language than everyone else. The endgame technique is flawless. Positions that look like draws to most players, they convert into wins. They know almost every theoretical endgame and practical trick, and they don't make mistakes in simple endgames, almost ever. Here's something interesting though. At this level, psychology becomes huge. It's not just about finding the best move, it's about playing moves that create practical problems for your opponent. Maybe the engine says move A is best, but move B leads to complications where humans make mistakes. A GM will play move B. The game between GMs are fascinating for a different reason. They're not about who blunders first, because most of the time, no one blunders. They're about who can slowly build an advantage from nothing, like a tiny minuscule edge piece activity, a slightly better pawn structure. Over 40 moves, that edge becomes winning. Most people watching don't even see what happened, but one player just slowly got squeezed until they couldn't move. This is also the level where chess becomes a serious profession for many players. They're playing in tournaments around the world, making money from chess. Teaching, coaching, streaming, writing books. Chess isn't just a game anymore, it's their life. So, if level 6 is Grandmaster, what could level 7 be? Level 7, Super GM, 2700 plus. This is the top of the mountain. 2700 plus rating means you're in the conversation for being one of the best in the world. There are maybe 40-50 players at this level in the entire world right now. What makes a Super GM different from a regular GM? First is the raw calculating power. These players can calculate 8 to 10 moves deep in sharp positions. And not just the main line, they're calculating multiple variations at once. It's like their brain is running multiple chess games simultaneously. The opening prep is insane. They're working with teams analyzing computer lines that go 40 plus moves deep. They're finding improvements on theory that in positions that no human has played yet. Just working with engines to find the truth of a position. But here's what really separates Super GMs from everyone else. They have intuition that's almost supernatural. They can look at a position and just know the right plan. Not calculate it, not think it through, step by step, just know. It's like they're seeing the chessboard in a completely different way, pattern recognition taken to the absolute extreme. They've studied so many games, played so many positions, that they just recognize everything. Consistency is unreal too. A 2700 player doesn't have bad games, like lower rated players do. Even their off games are still 2600 plus level. They might not play their absolute best, but they never collapse. Here's something you might not know about this level. The mental game becomes everything, because everyone at 2700 plus can calculate. Everyone knows theory, everyone has great technique, so games are decided by who can handle the pressure better. Who can sit at the board for 6 hours and not make a single mistake. Who can stay focused when they're in a slightly worse position for 4 hours straight. It's exhausting to just watch, imagine playing it. The games between Super GMs are like watching two computers fight, except these are humans, and sometimes the human element breaks through. Someone pushes too hard, someone tries too hard to win a drawn position, and that's when mistakes happen. Those mistakes are so tiny that you need an engine to even see them. Like, it's not hanging a piece, it's putting a bishop on the wrong square 15 moves later, and that bishop is slightly worse, and somehow that's enough to lose. This is also where you see the different styles at the highest level. Some Super GMs like Magnus are universal. They can play anything. Others like Hikaru are incredibly fast and tactical. Others are more positional and strategic, but they're all world class, just in different ways. And here's the crazy part. Even at 2700, there are levels. A 2750 player is noticeably stronger than a 2700 player, and a 2800 player plus, like Peak Magnus or Garry Kasparov, they're in a league of their own. Quick reminder, if you're working on getting through those beginner and intermediate levels, check out the 4-week chess improvement system in the description. It's 28 days, focused training, exactly what you need to stop blundering and improve your game, and the first 50 people get 25% off, so make sure you get there quickly. So that's the journey from 100 to 2700 plus. 7 levels, each one a completely different game. The cool thing is, no matter where you are right now, you can always get better. Whether you're hanging pieces at 600 or grinding for that GM title at 2400, there's always another level to reach. Thanks for watching. If you want to see more breakdowns like this, hit subscribe and like. I got more chess content coming. Bye.